How's it going, everyone? First video of the new year for me. A couple days late, perhaps. I've got something new for you here today. This is Warframe for the PC. Essentially what this game is a free-to-play third-person action game. Mostly PvE, although I believe there is a little bit of PvP, optional PvP involved. Quite a fun game. I've sunk a decent amount of time into it the last couple weeks or so, and feel like I'm finally able to give a good sort of summary of what the game is and impressions, and then also why you should care and why you should play it. So the video is basically going to be in three parts. First off, I'm going to go through the options menu, show off that sort of thing, just like I always do. Second part is going to be actual gameplay, and then the third part is going to be basically a discussion of the business model and how fair it is, because, as I said, it is a free-to-play game. There is you have the option to spend money in it, basically, is what I'm getting at here. And we'll talk about how fair that is. So first of all, let's check the options. There's a lot here, actually. It's quite good. You've got everything from setting your region and ping limit for the matchmaking. You can turn chat off, which is always nice. You can turn gore on or off. You can also enable or disable the UI in screenshots, which is pretty cool. As far as graphics options go, quite a few here, as you can see. It's even got a field of view slider, although this is a third-person game, which is really cool, definitely. I'm running at 720p windowed mode, which is what I usually do when I record for YouTube. Game runs pretty well. Certain places on my system it will tank below 60, so I have a few things turned off, like PhysX, and I always have motion blur turned off because it bugs me. But I'm assuming if I turned off like anti-aliasing and tessellation and that kind of thing, I could probably squeeze some better performance out of it. But it runs pretty well for the most part. Controls are fully rebindable, as you can see. There are even hotkeys, which is pretty cool. You can bind those if you would like. And then you can show the FPS, whatever. Let's go back to controls. There's also some interesting stuff. You can use a controller in this game, and this is on the PS3, I believe. And PS4, maybe? I don't know. You can also change a lot of stuff with the controller. For instance, aim assist, vibration. You can invert the axes, etc. Pardon me one moment. Sorry, I had to cough there, and I thought it better to mute the mic than to just cough straight into it. Also, some cool stuff like aligning your attacks to the camera and melee auto-targeting. We'll get into that later. And then tons of stuff in the options, too. You can change all of the volumes. You can enable or disable voice. There is voice chat in this. Hardly anybody uses it, which is, probably for the best. But, generally, there's a lot of options here, and it's great. I don't think there's really anything missing here. Maybe there isn't like an overall quality slider, but pretty much everything you could want is here. So let's talk about how the game works. This is your Warframe, hence the name of the game. I currently have 4 of them. This is the one I started with. You get to choose from 3 when you start up, and it's not any 3. There are 3 choices, and you get to choose 1. I chose the Excalibur because it's pretty well-rounded, general just combat frame. And then these other ones I've actually unlocked through crafting, and we'll talk about that. But basically everything you get in the game, unless you just want to buy it for real money, and in that case not even everything can be bought for real money, everything you get in the game is gotten through crafting. The game has sort of a Diablo-style loot system in a way, where enemies drop materials and mods and stuff, and you have to combine those to get your new equipment. So these are the 4 that I have. As I said, Excalibur's sort of an all-around, pretty balanced frame. Rhino is pretty much a tank. He has an ability that lets him basically shield and absorb damage for a certain amount of time, which is pretty good. Oberon was just added in a recent update. He has a healing ability as well as a smite ability, so he's pretty versatile. He can, heal teammates or attack in an area. Nyx is one I've been using lately. She has a mind control attack, which will actually turn an enemy to your side. And then this move here, Chaos, will actually confuse all the enemies within a certain radius to just start attacking each other randomly, so it's really powerful. As you can see, they all have ranks. So Nyx is at 26, Rhino and Excalibur at 30, and Oberon is at 3. Basically, this is your level up system. 30 is the max rank, and they get more powerful as you go through. And the more levels you have, the more you can upgrade, which is essentially putting these cards and fitting them into the slots here, up to, 30 points. And these all do different things. You find these basically in the levels, and you can also get them as rewards for missions, but they all do slightly different things. So for instance, Slash Dash is actually a skill, as is Radial Javelin. These actually have to be plugged in here, and they do take up points. So if you want to run with no skills and just use your guns, that's totally viable. Then I have some cooler ones, like a 25 auto parry chance, which is pretty cool. Basically, he'll just whip out his sword and swing it around, blocking bullets as they come in. And then there's stuff like, extra health, extra shield capacity, and that sort of thing. If we check out Rhino, he's probably loaded out similarly. Excuse me. Yeah, you can see his skills are different. Each character does have 4 skills. I typically won't use all of them just because some are more useful than others. But you can see for him, I've got extra armor, extra shield, shield recharge, extra health. So he's definitely built up to be a tank. If we check out Nyx, similar stuff. Pretty much health and shield are always going to be good. But I've got, again, different skills. And then Oberon, I haven't really upgraded much yet. So he's only got a couple things in there. So in addition to these, I think I'll use Excalibur first time in. You can upgrade and customize, rather, the appearance of your frame. So, for instance, I've got a skin for him. Makes him look a little bit cooler. There are also different helmets. You can buy these or you can craft them. I was lucky enough to find a blueprint for this, so I crafted it. And then you can change colors. Now, by default, you only have this center row here unlocked. I paid a little bit of platinum to unlock all this. And then there are all these other ones as well. You can see what they look like before you choose to buy them. It's basically, we'll talk about that when we get back into business model. But you can definitely make your frame look different from everybody else's. Even when, you only have this line here, you've got a decent amount of different areas that you can customize. Down to even the color of your energy, which will customize this little scarf cape thing, which, by the way, you can only buy with platinum, which is the premium currency. However, they are nice enough to give you some platinum, so that's what I spent my first platinum on. Anyways, let's take a look at the weapons. Several different types. There are rifles, there are shotguns, there are bows, and there are more exotic weapons, which I don't really have access to right now. The basic weapon that you start with is an alternate version of this, which is actually not very good. So the first thing I would recommend you do is hop on over to the shop, primary weapons, and buy yourself the Bratton. I believe it costs about 75,000, maybe 50,000, maybe 25,000. I can't remember because it's been so long since I got it. At any rate, it's really cheap. You can get it through just the credits, which you get through doing the missions, and it will make the game way more fun for you. So I'd recommend you get that. Secondary weapons, if we check those out. I don't have the default one currently, which is this just a regular pistol. It's not that good. However, again, you can get these dual pistols for pretty cheap, 25,000 credits, which you get very, very easily. I'd recommend doing that. What I have currently are bolt pistols. They actually shoot bolts, not bullets. Dual shotguns, and this thing, which is essentially a sniper pistol. They're pretty cool. And then you have a melee weapon as well. You start with this, the Skana. It's decent. currently using these two. This I just have because I'm leveling it for leveling credit. Obviously they all have different abilities and everything. And the game's really good at giving you stats here. You can see this does 13 impact, 13 puncture, and 117 slash damage, whereas this does 4, 43, and 4. However, you also have to take the attack speed and the crit rate into account. And all enemies take different damages more. So, you know, certain enemies take more damage from slash, certain enemies take more damage from puncture, etc. But honestly, because this is a PvE game, and because you can mod your weapons a lot, as you can see here, I've got attack speed, melee damage, and puncture damage on this one. On this pistol, I have magazine capacity, reload speed, and overall damage. A lot of these are passive, but they still make a big difference. Anyway, my point is that because you can actually mod all your weapons, you can make a bad weapon into a good weapon. So pretty much every weapon is going to be viable. Maybe not until like super end game, but for the most part you can use just about anything and make it good, which is, well, quite good. And then there's this little guy. He's a sentinel. You don't start with one of these. You have to craft them. They're a little bit expensive to craft. It's like 100,000 credits for the blueprint, but it's pretty useful all in all. And honestly, once you start playing the game, you're not going to be hurting for credits. So that pretty much covers the weapons. Now this is the crafting system. As you can see, I've got quite a few things in here. What you need to be able to craft something is in fact a blueprint, and you generally get these by either buying them through the shop, finding them in a mission, or getting them as a quest reward of some sort. As you can see, just having the blueprint is enough. However, I have to have all these other materials in order to craft, say, the furnace here. I've got the ferrite, got the alloy plates, and the salvage, but I'm 1 neurode short of crafting that. You can see this jaw sword is ready to claim. That's been crafted. And Frost, who is another Warframe, is actually in the process of crafting. Now, that says 1 day, 17 minutes. So that is real time. If you want to craft yourself a Warframe, it's going to take you 3 days real time for that to happen, which is kind of annoying. Basically, you just click it. You can rush it for platinum, but that's really not a good use of money. So basically, just click it, come back 3 days later. Crafting weapons is a little bit better. Generally, they take about 12 hours. So essentially what I see that as is, click craft, next play session, you'll have it. I also have this helmet for Nyx, which is an alternate helmet I got as a reward, ready to claim, so we'll grab that. I'm going to leave this in here right now because I'm currently leveling another sword, as I said, so I'll grab that in a bit. Anyways, let's finally hop into a mission. As you can see, there are a variety of different planets. You basically start on Mercury, as you might expect, and you make your way through this constellation type pattern, which is pretty cool. All the missions are different types, so you see there's an exterminate, sabotage, capture, mobile defense, assassination, head on over to Venus, different types, rescue, what else? Survival, spy, defense. Basically Mercury to Venus, and then from Earth, as you can see, we've got some branching paths now, so we can go to Saturn, Mars, or Jupiter, and then those all, of course, branch out into different areas. We mouse over the planets here. You can see in the left side of the screen that they all give you different crafting materials. So, for instance, Earth, let's try that one again, is ferrite, rubido, neurodes, and detonite ampules. If we go to Neptune, nanospores, ferrite, control modules, and field run samples. So these are the materials you're going to be using to craft your weapons, frames, etc. And that's why it's important to basically plan your progress through based upon what you want to unlock. Now early on, you're pretty much just going to be going through the missions, right? You have to get through Earth, essentially, before you can branch out. But after that, the game opens up quite a bit. And you can basically go in and say, let's see, I want to get the furnace here. And let's just assume that I didn't have all this stuff already, except for the neurodes. So I need ferrite, alloy plates, salvage, and neurodes. Well, I can get ferrite there. There's usually a place that has a good combination of what you're looking for. We got neurodes and ferrite here on Earth, so that would be a good bet. You know, hit that up. And this has alloy plates and salvage, so you know you can sort of tailor your gaming experience based upon what you want to unlock. And obviously these are all going to be harder as they go outwards. There are also different enemy factions, and I'll show off a couple of them. But for the meantime, let's go ahead and just jump into a mission finally. Excalibur is fully leveled, so I think I will hop into one of the more difficult missions. We will hit up, or at least one of the slightly more difficult missions. We'll hit up, I don't really care, actually. Let's just go to Neptune, I guess. Now, as you can see, I don't have all the missions unlocked here. I've still got to do these few, and then these. So, is there an exterminate? Yeah, we'll do an exterminate mission. Those are pretty easy for the most part. And it looks like, based on this, somebody else has joined my game, which is fine. Alright, so this is the game.
Eliminate all corpus threats.
As I said, it is a third-person shooter. However, it's not a third-person cover shooter, and this is what makes the game actually fun. You may find yourself just sort of standing still and aiming down sight at the beginning, but this is actually not what you're going to want to do. The game is very much based around this movement system, where you can essentially, you know, run and fire your weapon with no penalty. I mean, maybe you have a little bit less accuracy than if you aim down sight, but for the most part, you're going to want to stay on the move. And unless you're at very long range like this, you're going to want to be moving around, sliding and shooting, doing matrix stuff, and that sort of thing. Now, this guy looks like he's got quite a bit better equipment than me, so I'm going to have to try and keep up if I want to actually get any kills here. As you can see, the top left corner says there are 80 enemies left. The goal of exterminate missions is actually just to kill everything in the level, so pretty simple there. Now, the movement system works pretty well. There's, you know, you move with WASD, as you might expect, and then you can slide if you press the crouch button, which is control. There's also wall running. You can, like I said, do sort of a matrix dodge if you hop into the air. And while you won't find yourself doing this super often, it is still reasonably useful in certain situations. Of course, you can be firing while you do all this, so that makes things quite a bit more useful, I would say. As far as weapon variety goes, it's pretty good. I'm just going to be using these this time, as I said. But that was just a little look at one of the basically starter weapons. You can get this thing really early in the game, and it's still super viable even later on. Switch to the pistol here. This is a weapon that you can craft. You kill one of the earlier bosses, and he will drop you the blueprints for it, so that you can craft it. It's basically a sniper pistol. This one is actually not hit scan though, so if you played Tribes Ascend at all, you know all about hit scan and non-hit scan weapons. Basically, hit scan means that, you know, you aim, the bullet goes there. Non-hit scan means there's actually a little bit of travel time with the projectile, so it's a little bit trickier to aim, but obviously the offset is that the weapon does quite a bit more damage. As you can see, just a few shots will actually take these guys down. And the great thing about the mod system is that this thing has really poor reload speed and really poor ammo capacity. Well, there's a mod for that. What happened? Somebody does happen to go down. You can actually... Okay, hold on. You can actually revive them, which is good. Okay, taking damage here. That right there is a mod. As I said, you just find those through the level. And if you get ones you don't want, you can actually sell them to get yourself more credits.
to proceed.
Anyways, this should be over pretty quickly. Now, if you do your like slide in the air by pressing crouch, you can also do a melee attack to do this little helicopter move, and this is very useful for getting around quickly. So, like that. You get the hang of it pretty quickly. It's not that hard to do, but it's quite useful, both for, you know, getting places quickly and also for just attacking enemies, assuming you have a weapon that can hit multiple enemies. 17 left. Pretty close here. Now, the movement... I'm paying attention there.
Bypass complete.
The movement system seems a little bit awkward the first time you play it, but you quickly realize that it always follows the same sort of rules. So, once you get used to it, no problems. You know, this involves stuff like climbing up ledges and that sort of thing. I really need to do an earlier mission that has people with less OP gear. This guy's been playing for a lot longer than me, obviously. Anyway, speaking about frame rate, it has not dropped below 60 yet. I have fraps locked at 60, so... it's a very, very nice looking game, especially for a free-to-play. And all things considered, the fact that it runs this well is pretty good. I know that they've done some performance improvements compared to when it first came out, so good on them for making it accessible. Here's an example of the wall run. Honestly, that's often a situational thing, but you can do it pretty much anywhere, so if you want to be really awesome, you can fire your weapon off of it. And one of the cool things, honestly, for me, is that when you're doing all this Matrix-type stuff, the game doesn't actually slow down, which means that there's actually a pretty high degree of skill involved in actually pulling off those crazy moves. You know, if you want to be doing the wall run and killing enemies... Okay, what's going on here? There we go. If you want to be, you know, doing the wall run and pulling off those crazy moves, then you are going to have to be a little bit skilled. That should be everything.
Outpost is clean. Proceed to extraction.
So once you finish the mission, you essentially just have to get to extraction, which usually involves running through a little bit more of the level. Sometimes, if you're not doing an extermination mission, there will still be enemies attacking you, so don't think it's over just because you happen to, you know, complete the objective. However, it's usually doable if you've managed to, you know, if you were able to complete the objective, you shouldn't have too much trouble getting to extraction. And that, as they say, is that.
Another job well executed.
So, for completing this mission, I received 3,000 credits, 264 ferrite, 178 nanospores, 3 field run samples, and then all of these are mods. Also, all my weapons got XP, but they're all max rank anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So that's a pretty decent haul for that. Obviously, that's a later mission. I'm going to leave this session real quick. The earlier missions, I believe, get you like 1,500 credits per. But still, as I said, if we go in and look at just buying weapons straight up, most of them you can't just buy straight up with credits, but some of them you can. You know, the dual pistols, which are very, very good, for the beginning of the game at least, are only 25,000. So that's only a few runs through a level, honestly. Let's go ahead and check out another type of mission. I'm going to switch my frame up and use, we'll use Nyx this time. And actually, I'm going to equip my new helmet. Cool. So apparently what that does is add power efficiency, which basically means that I can use my power for less cost, meaning I can use it more times. We will throw on the Dread, which is a bow-type weapon. This is actually a super rare weapon I got lucky enough to find, which is pretty cool. And we'll throw on the dual shotguns, which I am not finished leveling yet. They're only rank 13, so they're not great. But I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a sampling of the different frames, how they play differently in different, you know, weapon styles and such. So Nyx is not leveled as much, however she's still leveled pretty well, so we will go ahead and jump into... How about a... let's try Saturn. How about a defense mission on Saturn? And I'm just going to start playing. People can actually join into the match while it's in progress. The matchmaking works pretty well. I mean, there's not really anything to complain about. You can always set your ping threshold if you end up getting laggy matches, and plenty of people are playing this. You pretty much never have a problem finding a match, at least in certain areas. Some areas, you know, less people tend to play them, but for the most part, you know, works pretty well. So this basically works as a horde mode. You have to defend this core here from oncoming waves of enemies. And as you can see, this is my ultra rare bow. It does need to be charged before every shot, and the reload time is quite poor. However, it does crazy amounts of damage. At least crazy amounts of slash damage, which isn't actually all that effective against this type of enemy. However, we will make do, because I did want to show off just how it works. The key to this weapon is actually getting the headshots, because if you manage to crit and get a headshot, you're going to be doing over 1,000, couple thousand even. However, this weapon does have travel time with the projectiles, so it can be a little bit tricky to actually pull it off. Switch out to the shotguns. This is actually a horrible weapon to pick for solo survival. It works great as a support weapon, but not so much as a, you know, weapon if you're the only person. But I should be okay. As you can see, the dual shotguns handle pretty much as you would expect. They are shotguns and they are dual. There's an example of that sliding attack. Beautiful. I think the first time I managed to pull off, like, running in and firing at an enemy and then slashing them in half, that was the first time I was like, yeah, this game's for me. Now the good thing about this bow is it actually pierces multiple enemies, so if you can pull off something like that, you can actually do doubles and triples. It's quite nice. However, I'm still getting the hang of aiming it. I'm not great with it yet. As I said, a lot of the weapons do actually have a reasonable degree of skill to them, which makes the game not get stale. As it is a PvE game, you know, a lot of times those tend to get pretty easy or just unfair. Yeah, you see I just did 3,700 with that attack. And I've seen screenshots of this weapon, you know, modded properly, doing over 10k per shot. Obviously that requires a lot of work, though. And the sword really isn't that good, so I wouldn't recommend it if you you happen to find the blueprint. It's the Pangolin blade or something like that. It was a quest reward, so I figured I'd craft it and see how it was. As you can see, using the bow just feels really satisfying. And I'm actually totally okay with this trend the last maybe year or so of putting bows in games, because they're fun. Mixes it up from just the old assault rifle thing. So now I'm going to go ahead and show off some of my skills, I think. I can kill this guy. I can use my skill on this guy. And he is now under my control. So he's going to run around and actually attack other enemies. And try and kill them for me. Now it only lasts for a certain amount of time. And then afterwards he will begin attacking me again. However, it is very useful because you can use it on just about any enemy. So heavy dudes with rocket launchers come in and tons of armor, yeah, you're going to want to grab them right away because they will just wreck everything else. And as you can see, the combat tends to flow very well between your different weapons. There's always a, or rather, there's never a time when you're just going to be, you know, just sitting there and aiming down the sight and just reloading the same weapon over and over and over. Unless you're doing it wrong, or maybe power gaming it. But in a PvE game, power gaming it just seems like the wrong way to do things, at least in my opinion. You know, min-maxing and that sort of thing. Because this game is PvE, again, and because you can pretty much mod all your weapons however you like, you are more than welcome to just use the weapons that you think are cool and still be effective in battle. Which I absolutely love. There are too many games where, you know, everybody just ends up using the same equipment. And this is not one of them. So, great. Alright, so I'm going to show off one of my other skills now. What I want to do is find a large group of enemies. Before I activate it, however. This will work. So I'm going to run into the center of them, use this, and now they are all just going to start randomly attacking each other. And in a defense scenario, that basically means that I have pretty much taken care of that side of the map for a certain amount of time. The great thing about it is that even the enemies that don't get caught in the initial blast, I guess, are still affected by it because they will be attacked by the enemies that you used it on. Let's go ahead and use that again. Pick up some energy orbs, and I can use it again. One thing the game really gets right is that it gives you enough energy to use your abilities a lot. There are plenty of games that give you these cool abilities and then don't give you enough energy that you feel like you can actually use them. This is not one of those games. Especially in a situation like this, tons of enemies are going to drop energy, and that means that I can just essentially keep using my abilities over and over as long as I am smart about it. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this yet. This defense is actually going to go for 5 waves. However, you can choose to keep going. You basically go till 10, 15, 20. Increments of 5. The rewards will go up in value every time. However, there is a good amount of randomness to it. So, you're not going to get the same reward every time. However, as you can imagine, the enemies will get more difficult every time too. As you can see next to the enemy's names, if I mouse over him, he's level 14. The enemies in the next wave are going to be more like level 20, and then, you know, it's going to go up from there. And as you can see, this is an earlier area, so I'm soloing it pretty effectively. But there are areas in the game where if you're not modded correctly, you are going to need a party. However, I found that either soloing or maybe, you know, one other person, maybe on your friends list, you can get through pretty much any area. So that's another plus. And you can actually choose before you go into a mission if you want the matchmaking to put you with other people, if you want it to be invite only, or if you want it to even be solo. However, the game does not balance the enemies based upon which one you choose. The enemies are going to be the same level regardless. Alright, let's go ahead and confuse these fellas, and we'll go head over to the other side here. Most of the time the danger in these missions is not in you getting killed, but it's in the objective being destroyed. That's a heavy gunner up there, so I'm going to take control of him, I think. Those guys will absolutely destroy things. In fact, I'm just going to do this. It's a little bit less risky. Because you do have to stand still for a second. You want to be a little bit careful. Get owned. I know there's another guy around here. Alright, so I just had somebody join in. Normally I would keep going, after wave 5 because this has been pretty easy, but this time around I'm just going to quit just so I can show you guys another type of mission and another Warframe. Take control of him. Nyx is becoming one of my favorites just because the mind control ability is so useful. Just going to sit here and watch these two guys fire at each other. Although these guys do have a lot of armor, they tend to just stand still. So, that's their sort of weakness. I'm going to go grab this mod before the match ends. Should just have a couple enemies left. That is actually Frost. That's one of his abilities. Okay. There we go. So I'm out of here. Normally, again, I would keep going. This isn't really a rare mod or anything. In fact, it's a common mod, as you can see. But, yeah.
That's the last of them. Objective is secure. Let's go home.
So, as you can see, this time I got plastids, nanospores, and something else that I didn't actually read. Alright, we'll go ahead and leave this one. And I will show you guys one more match, and then we'll talk about the business model. This is going to be a pretty long video, but there's a lot in this game, so deserves it. We'll use the Tigris, which is a double-barrel shotgun. The Akbolto, which is an absolute monster of a weapon. It's probably my favorite weapon. And we'll throw on the Gram, which is actually not that amazing, but I love it just for the way it looks. Because again, you can do that in this game. Play it just for the way it looks. And I actually do have an alternate helmet for the Rhino here as well. It adds speed. He's pretty slow, so it's definitely worth it. I like the look of the Thrak one, but I don't have that one, so. I think we're good. Let's go in. Let's see. We will go ahead and do... Actually, I think there's an infestation outbreak, which are these little events that can happen where these areas will be taken over by the infested. And this is where you're going to be getting your credits early in the game. You notice there's a reward of 20,000 credits here. If you complete this mission 3 times, once enough people have completed it, you'll notice it says, if I mouse over it there, it says 98%. Every time this mission is completed, the percent's going to go down. When it gets to 0, you're going to get the quest rewards. So, say I were to complete this 3 times, this 3 times. As soon as those are done, I'm going to get 50,000 credits just for doing those. So, it's a really easy way to get credits. Definitely recommend. You can also get rare materials from this. Gallium's not so rare, but mutagen masses are pretty rare. So, let's hop in and do one of these. We'll do this one because I do want me a mutagen mass. And we'll show off the Rhino. Okay, I joined into one already in progress. Now the Rhino's main ability that I use is this, which is the shield. It basically makes him impervious to damage for a certain amount of time. Now these guys, who would normally be our enemies, are actually our allies on this mission. We're basically assisting them in wiping out the infected, who, as you can imagine, are mostly melee-based, and they just sort of swarm you. Let's see what our... Oh, this is an extermination mission again. Alright. Now, I actually have an attack speed mod on this sword. Without that, it is very, very slow. However, you can make it quite a bit more useful by, again, increasing that attack speed. We need to catch up here. The Tigris, which is the shotgun I'm currently using, basically holds 2 rounds. It's a double barrel kind of thing. And just wipes out anything that's standing directly in front of it. However, it takes quite a while to reload, so you have to keep that in mind. Basically, you pull the click the mouse button, it fires 1 barrel, and then you release, it fires the other barrel. So you can get this 1-2 thing going on. Or you can hold it down and then click reload if you only want to fire 1. So that can help a little bit. Say I want to kill this guy, I fire once, and then there's another guy around the corner. Assuming that my teammate doesn't kill everybody before me already. Then you can do that sort of thing. I haven't found it to be incredibly good, but it's not modded all the way yet, so it's hard to know. And again, just for how cool it is, I will probably keep it. As you can see, I just wiped that guy out in one shot. Let's switch over to the Ekbolto. This is actually acquired by crafting the Bolto twice and then crafting them together into a single weapon. This thing fires bolts, as I said. They are not hit scan, but boy are they deadly. They actually pierce through enemies and hit enemies behind them. So if you fire this into a group, it just chaos ensues, and it's great. I would venture to say that these are probably my best weapon. Like, even primaries and stuff aren't as good as these. Where am I going? Ah, it's down here. As you can see, just tears everything apart. You basically just spam these into groups of enemies and get tons of kills. Reload speed isn't amazing, but again, that can be modded, so no worries there. 6 more. Now, Rhino does have other abilities, however, I tend to not use them. He has an ability that boosts everybody's attack power for a certain amount of time, and then he has another ability that sort of launches enemies into the air. That's it.
No further life forms detected.
I think, hopefully, you know, this gave you guys sort of just an example of how the different frames play, because they do all play differently.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
So 33,000, some crafting stuff, and some mods. Very good. And again, if I beat this one 3 times, as soon as the mission is basically over, I'm going to get that quest reward, essentially. I'll worry about that later, however. Okay, so, third part of the video now. If you're watching this now, I have put either annotations or links in the description to basically skip to the different parts if you're only interested in certain aspects. Let's talk about business model. What is this? You also get these alert missions, which give you different rewards as well. This one only gives 2,400 credits, so that's not that useful, but you also get stuff like weapon blueprints and you know, helmets and that sort of thing. Anyways, let's talk business models. So, I will say first off, I have spent money to get premium currency, which is the platinum here. However, everything that I've acquired has been through credits. The only thing that I've actually spent money on is cosmetic stuff. So that is stuff like the that's not supposed to happen. Wow. Oh, there we go. So stuff like the little cape, stuff like the skins. That's actually all I've spent my money on. So everything that I've acquired in the game has been through, I don't want to say legitimate means, but has been just through, you know, credits and finding the stuff in-game. And I would argue, honestly, that if you are just going into the shop and buying these weapons, you're not really doing it right, because the sort of the fun of the game comes from the drop system and the crafting system, at least for me. I mean, the game itself is fun to play, don't get me wrong, but it's, for me at least, again, it's more fun to go through and say, okay, I know I need to get this boss, you know, attack this boss to get the blueprints for this Warframe. For instance, Frost, who is currently crafting here, you need the 3 different parts to craft a Warframe. And I know that his parts are going to drop from this boss, Lech Krill, or Lech Krill, however you want to say it. So basically you end up playing through that boss several times until you get all the different parts. It is random which one you get, however you're always guaranteed to get one, so it doesn't take too incredibly long. then you can craft all that stuff together. Now stuff like the prime weapons, these are quite a bit more rare, and you'd have to play for a very long time to actually get the components for these. So I haven't gotten any of those yet. But let's hop on into the shop and just see about the prices. Now, if memory serves, you can get about, darn, what is it, like about 100 platinum for $5. I mean, it's a little bit less than that, so if we just figure 100 platinum is $5, which I don't know if that's entirely accurate, some of these prices are going to look pretty steep. That means you're going to end up spending like over $10 if you decide to just go in and buy a Warframe. So if I just wanted to buy Frost, that's like 20 bucks, maybe a little bit more. Some of them are less expensive. Loki's only 75. Mag is 175, but that's pretty steep. What you're going to want to do is go in here and buy the blueprint for the frame. So for instance, if I wanted to craft Loki rather than buying him, I could get the blueprint for 35,000 credits. Then I'm going to need to find out which boss has his parts, 25,000 credits, and 1 Orokin cell to craft him. So it's a process, certainly, but it really doesn't take that long, honestly. I mean, I haven't been playing this game for more than a couple weeks now, and mind you, I've been hitting it pretty hard. But I've got 4 Warframes right now with a 5th crafting, so you can certainly do it. And you can see my list of materials here. Some are more rare than others, obviously. I've got quite a bit of materials, so frames are definitely the most difficult thing to craft. Let's take a look at if we just wanted to get a weapon. So let's go primary weapons here. They're a little bit less expensive. Some of these, again, can be bought just with credits, such as the Bratton, the Strun, which is a basic shotgun, which is not very good in my experience, so don't go for that. These are a little bit less. The Bolter is 150, which is like a little over $5, I think, around there. But what you're going to want to do, again, is take a look at the blueprints for these things. It's only about 15k to 20k for the average weapon. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. And you notice some of these are XP locked, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't go in and buy the most powerful weapon right off the bat. So that's how they keep it from being pay to win, I suppose. But let's say I wanted to get the Hind. I'm going to need 40,000 credits for the blueprint, which is pretty expensive for a weapon blueprint. 6 neurodes, 700 circuits, 1,000 salvage, 12 rubido, I don't know, and then 25,000 credits to craft that. So that's actually one of the more expensive weapons. But some of them, for instance the Boltor, you're only going to need 2 neurodes, alloy plates, and salvage, and polymer bundles. Now, you're not going to be able to get all these in one place, obviously. You're going to have to go back to that map there and see what you can get where. But in general, it's not that difficult to get yourself a melee weapon, or a primary weapon, rather, or any weapon. Same thing with the melee weapons, I crafted the Fang and the Gram just from getting the blueprint, figuring out, okay, I need 1 Morphix, 600 polymer bundles, etc. It doesn't take that long, and it's pretty easy. And again, I'm going to have to say, if you are just buying the weapons, you're probably not doing it right, because the game does have that Diablo-esque loot system, and that's where a lot of the fun of the game comes in. I mean, the reason people are still playing Diablo 2, however many years later, is because, 1, they were disappointed with Diablo 3, but for 2, they're playing it because they like that drop system and that crafting system. So honestly, I'm going to say the business model is pretty fair. Again, I haven't been playing for too long. I have 587,000 credits. I've gotten all this stuff that I've crafted. It doesn't take that long to get this stuff. And there's another way to get credits if you want. You can go into your mods. These are all the mods that I currently have. You can upgrade these mods, which I haven't actually mentioned yet. So say, for instance, I have Well of Life, I guess. I don't even have Trinity, but I'll just use this as an example. I can fusion this with another Well of Life. That's going to upgrade it. You see it's now rank 1, and it says mod capacity rises with each rank, obviously. You can combine the same mod with it. You can combine these fusion cores, and it costs credits to upgrade these things, but they end up being more powerful. So for instance, at one point you have, say, plus 40% health. You upgrade that a few times, it's plus 200% health. So it's definitely worth your time to do that, although obviously then they take up more space in your loadout. Now what you can do is say, I don't have Trinity, I need some extra credits. I'm going to go ahead and sell these. I'm just going to go down the list here of everything I don't need. Don't need that. Pretty much I just hold on to everything, at least one of everything. And most of the other stuff I will sell, unless it's a rare. You can see the rarity there. These will be in gold. So I've got a bunch of these, don't need them. Don't need that. Don't need these. Don't need these. That's for something I don't have, so I don't need it. And I can sell a couple fusion cores too, because I have a bunch of those. So just selling a few mods there is going to get me 5,800 credits. And that's another way to easily, come by credits. So, all in all, I have to say, business model, it's pretty fair. If you're just looking at the cost of things for platinum, it's a little bit deceptive. I guess it's irritating that stuff is that expensive. But again, the fact that you can very easily get this stuff without buying it, makes it better. Factor that in with the fact that there are tons of weapons that you just flat out can't buy. You have to find the blueprints for them. Like this isn't even half of the weapons that are available in the game. There are tons more. And all the in-game stuff needs to be crafted. You have to find the components and everything. Now you can actually buy components in here. But again, you're kind of doing it wrong if you do that. Stuff like Forma is a little bit more rare. That's about 20 platinum, which is, it's less than $1, so it's not a ton. But I wouldn't do that personally. You can also buy, mod packs and that sort of thing. But I've managed to get all of this without actually spending any money on the items themselves, only buying cosmetic stuff. So I'm going to say, yeah, it's definitely a fair business model. There's no way you can call this pay to win, because again, all the end-game gear is both XP locked and locked by you needing to find all the components for it. And I would definitely call this a pay-to-skip model. If you come in at level 1, say from watching gameplay on YouTube or something, you really, really want to play Valbon. You can just straight up buy Valbon for 300 platinum and then leave it at that. But again, probably not the best way to go. So I'm going to say yes, very fair business model, assuming you're not just going in trying to unlock everything with money. The other thing to keep in mind here is that you have a limited number of inventory slots, and that's a little bit tricky, I guess. You start off with 2 Warframe slots that you can play. If you want to buy more, you get 1 slot for 20 platinum, which again isn't a lot, but it's something to keep in mind. Weapon slots, you can get 2 for 12 platinum, so it's quite a bit cheaper, but you have enough for like 4 or 5 weapons at the beginning, I think. And this is the kind of game, honestly, where you're probably not going to be going through trying to unlock just everything. You're probably going to pick, a couple frames and a couple weapons that you really like and stick with those. So if you do actually want to be the person that goes in and unlocks every single thing, well, for one, you're going to be playing for a very long time, but you're also going to have to spend a little bit of cash. However, again, I think that's sort of missing the point. It's not a game where you just collect everything. It is a game where you pick your favorite, and you play that because it's fun. Imagine that. And obviously, you can sell the frames, you can sell your weapons if you want to free up some space for them. So, final conclusion, yes, fair business model, as I've said about 5 times now. Final conclusions of the game. It's a heck of a lot of fun. You can play it solo or with friends. There's a lot to like here, a lot of variety in play styles and weapons. It's got a cool loot and crafting system. It's got a very nice aesthetic and a cool graphic style. And all in all, definitely worth your time. It is free to play. You know, if you want to go into the game and never spend any money, you can very easily end up with, you know, stuff like this. No problems there. Because of that, I mean, it's on Steam, or you can just go to their website for it. I'll link that in the description. You know, there's no reason not to check it out. It's totally worth your time. Great game. I've been having a ton of fun with it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So this has been a very long video. This is going to be a quick look at Warframe. And not so quick look at Warframe, perhaps. But that's my impressions of the game. I love it. I have a ton of fun with it. I want to thank you guys very much for watching, if you've stuck around this long. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If you would like to see me play more Warframe, I would be totally willing to do that, because I've been just playing this for fun. You know, if you want me to show off some of my builds or something, even though, again, I'm not a pro player, no min-maxing and power gaming going on, but you know, I could show off some of the different levels, different frames and that sort of thing. Definitely be willing to do that. So, as always, just let me know. Otherwise, again, I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one. Until then.